Hey everybody, we're here today at the Campbell Soup Company headquarters in Camden, New Jersey, and today we're celebrating Ask an Archivist Day. My name's Jill, I'm from Global Communications, and over here we have Sarah. She's our in-house archivist. So Sarah, why don't you tell us a little bit about what we're doing today and what Ask an Archivist Day is?
So Ask an Archivist Day is an advocacy movement as part of October's American Archives Month. Everyone across the country, there's many different people, corporate archivists, institutional archivists, government archivists, the profession as a whole.
Everything you'll see on the table does have a number. So if we're going through something and you have a question about any of them, make sure you should put the number for the item first and then your question, and we'll make sure we get to your questions.
Absolutely. But just to get us started, I'll start and move along, but again, feel free to stop or ask a question and we can go back and get it taken care of. So the first item right here is a delivery box. This is how we used to deliver by the crate all of our red and white condensed soup, which was our bread and butter at the turn of the century. This particular crate dates to about 1905, so you'll see a couple photographs here at the end of these being transported in various fashions around the world. This was iconic. It would have been bright red in our traditional Campbell's red, and it would have been easily recognizable both on the delivery cart and in the store.
Sarah, is this the only one that we have with us?
We have several. This actually is from Camden, which was the original business that we had on the waterfront here in Camden. We've been in Camden for 147 years. The entire time our company has been around. We're very proud of that in the city of Camden. So this would have been a Camden box. We also have boxes that have Napoleon from certain plants all around the country and around the world, obviously in various languages as well. This is one of the oldest and in the best condition.
It's really cool.
That we brought out today. Thanks. So number 2 you'll see is a label book, which we are extremely fortunate to have. This was just for record keeping and for reordering of labels. So that's one of the reasons we have such a great collection of these intact and in incredibly good condition. That red is as bright as it was on the day it was printed. And you kind of see the variations of our label as we've gone through the years. And that's a good transition into 3, which is these are all mock-ups of what our cans have looked like and our labels have looked like through the years. So beginning in 1895 with the white label, that was our first soup label. It was ready to serve, so you didn't have to dilute it. And it's one of my favorites. It's just aesthetically beautiful. The next variation is the black and orange from 1897. That was just after we invented condensed soup. So the first version of tomato condensed soup looked like that on the shelf for only about a year. Then in 1898, which is the first red and white stacked, what we would consider our iconic label today, was begun. And that actually happened after one of our executives went to a homecoming game. It was a Cornell and Penn State football game. And Cornell was debuting their brand new cardinal red and white uniforms. And he loved them so much that the first thing Monday morning when he got back in the office, he talked to the guys at the office and said, we should really change our label. These colors are beautiful. And because it was 1898 and you could get things done a lot faster, everyone just said, that's a great idea. And they changed our label, and it's literally been an American icon. It's known around the world as our stacked red and white label. And again, moving through 1900 on into 1947, small little changes along the way. The one thing that's remained the same is that medallion in the middle. So in 1900, it was a medallion for an American prize in food. It was an excellence award that was here in Philadelphia. Then 5 years later, we won the Paris Exposition for food excellence, one of the first American firms to ever win that award. And that's what the medal is that you'll see starting right here. And it's still seen on our can today, is that food medal.
I just have to say, I think my favorite right now is the orange and black one, just because it's October and it's almost Halloween, and it's one of my favorite holidays.
It's called the Halloween label in-house, to think about that, yes. It stood off the shelf really easily, which is why that really nice stacked black and orange, but it didn't last very long. Yeah.
Well, only a year, you said.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're going to kind of move on to the Pepperidge Farm part of this now. So Margaret Rudkin, in 1937, founded Pepperidge Farm in Fairfield, Connecticut. She was trying to find a wholesome whole grain bread for her son. He had all sorts of food allergies and was just very finicky, and she couldn't find anything on the market. So she decided to see if she could bake the better loaf of bread, and she has. We're here for the rest. Up until today, still making Maggie's bread. So this implement is actually from her kitchen. So this was in 1930s, Connecticut. It's actually a coffee mill. It's used to grind coffee. But she brought it into her kitchen and was trying and experimenting with different ways of milling her own flour. So different grains, different strengths, whole grain, all that. So this is actually from her kitchen. It's one of the few we have left from that era before she went industrial, and we she started doing commercial bread sales.
So it's a coffee mill / flour grinder?
Exactly. It's a coffee mill that was repurposed because what she would, of course, call her Yankee ingenuity. This is an excellent example of that, where she didn't need to buy purpose-built. It was much more, she just found what was around and made it work.
Very cool.
The next few items we have here are our first packaging instances. So this really pretty green box on the bottom is the first instance of a Milano being called a Milano, and I apologize, it's right there, teeny tiny. So the cool story about Milano is it's one of those, it wasn't invented on purpose, but now it's everyone's favorite cookie. So it started out as one wafer with one layer of chocolate on one side, and it was packaged and shipped around the country. Unfortunately, once it went about south of Virginia, it got way too hot in the summer to be sustainable on the shelf. By the time they made it to the shelf, it was chocolate all in the bottom of the box with a bunch of wafers above it. It had melted into just a mess, a gloppy mess. So just to get that fixed, they slapped another wafer on the other side, and the Milano was born. It's the only reason it exists like that today. So that's the first time it was pictured. As you can see, this is a summer assortment. So this is the first time a Milano was called a Milano. And the second package we have here is from 1963. This is the first goldfish pouch. So again, iconic from the beginning. It's still in this vertical pouch, easily recognizable on the shelf and at home.
It looks exactly the same.
I know, right? And the little tiny crackers. And they're actually based on a Swiss cracker at the time that Maggie found when she was traveling in Europe. A lot of her new ideas for new American products came from her travels abroad. And she'd bring them back here, tweak them a little bit for American tastes, and another icon was born.
It's great.
Yeah.
Borrowing ideas.
Exactly. So the next item are a few V8 examples. V8, or Vegemin 8 as it was called in the 1930s, was invented by a man named W.G. Peacock in 1933 in Evans, US, and he combined 7 juices along with tomatoes to make this iconic V8 blend. It was called Vegemin 8 when he originally tried to package it, and a grocer he was trying to sell it to said, "You really should shorten that. It's too much, it's a mouthful." And so he suggested something like V8, really simple, and it stuck, and that's the reason why we have it today. So 2 interesting things about these 2 particular items is to notice the logo. These 2 are undated in our collection, so it's one of those ongoing problems we have of trying to learn more about our collection every day. This logo didn't change for almost 45 years. So typically we can at least infer something about the packaging from the way the logo looked, but V8 is one of those brands that's not cooperative in that standpoint. So this could be any time from right after World War II to right up to the mid-1980s, and this packaging in the carton. You'll also notice these are not in English, so V8 was one of the first of our expansion brands to go international. So this round tin is Italian, and then we've got, this one was actually manufactured in Canada for Canadian markets, so it has both has English and Canadian language on the packaging.
I think it's so interesting that the label hasn't changed at all. They
Exactly.
looked at it and they said, "It's perfect.
It's good.
I'm leaving it and not changing it."
Exactly. I think it was similar to our red and white cans, which were, it's so iconic that people knew what this looked like and they could find it on the shelf easily, so we didn't want to mess with it too much.
Right.
It had that staying power as well. So we're moving on down to our last item here. Again, probably one of my absolute favorite parts of the collection. So we had international distribution extremely early on. Most of these photographs are from the 1930s and the 1920s. And these are various ways that our product were distributed in the far-flung reaches of the globe. So on the left-hand side, we have a man skiing in a crate of red and white soup. This is in Sweden, circa 1933. And then moving next to that, we have this really great flatboat that's being rowed into port, and that's in the South Seas among the island nations. Our third example, and again, is one of my favorites just because of the icon in the background. This is wintertime delivery in Paris, France. on a flatbed truck. And you'll again see that iconic crate that we looked at the very beginning of this broadcast, stacked up on the truck.
I think it's so interesting not to just see all the different locations that our products went to, but how all the different locations are having them shipped in different and unique ways.
Exactly, completely conducive to where they're going to. We didn't expect to truck in soup to Sri Lanka, which is where this beautiful elephant is doing the job for us. And again, we can't truck things around. We had to be the ingenuity involved. It wasn't just getting the product sold, it was getting it to our consumer. And those were in extremely individualized